Hello, and welcome to this training on corporate compliance. This presentation was created by Emmy Y. Gilbert, Esquire, who is the Director of Corporate Compliance. After this session, the learner will be able to know how to react when common scenarios arise, know how and when to report an actual or suspected compliance violation, identify who the compliance officer is, understand how our compliance program is structured and how it operates, identify common examples of fraud, waste, and abuse, and understand the conduct expected of all employees and contractors. Healthcare is an extremely highly regulated field. We have a number of federal, state, and local laws and regulations telling us what we can and cannot do, including the conditions of participation for both home health and hospice, the Anti-Kickback Statute, the Stark Laws, the False Claims Act, and HIPAA. On top of that, we have to comply with the laws that apply generally to employers, such as OSHA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and countless others. Finally, there are certain rules we must follow, including the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, as a business unit of Graham Holdings Company. In order to be compliant, we must follow all of these rules and more. On top of that, we must all abide by internal policies and procedures, including the Employee Handbook, the Conflict of Interest Policy, and the Code of Business Conduct in order to be compliant. This may seem like a lot of rules, and truthfully, it is. The rules are complicated and constantly changing. Sometimes it's easy to get lost in the details and get overwhelmed, but the most important thing to remember about compliance is that it is about doing what's right, for our patients, for our customers, and for all of our employees. Compliance is about our daily actions. It's about treating everyone with whom we come in contact with respect, and always making the ethical choice at every opportunity. All the details are just a way of pointing us in the right direction. And remember, ethical behavior is just doing what's right. Why compliance? There are many reasons healthcare companies and employees should strive for compliance. Having too many paybacks or being outside of industry standards can trigger audits by CMS, fiscal intermediaries, and their contractors. Violations of laws and regulations can result not only in paybacks, but also in penalties like fines, probations, and exclusion from the Medicare and Medicaid programs. By having an effective compliance program, we hope to reduce the threat of lawsuits and reduce the risk to our company. And the Affordable Care Act makes compliance programs mandatory for healthcare providers. So we have to do. Most importantly, we care about compliance because it's the right thing to do. As healthcare providers, we have a responsibility to our patients to make sure they receive high-quality, compliant care. As a company, we have a responsibility to protect our patients and our employees, and one way we do this is by having a compliance program. The Office of Inspector General, or OIG, has published guidance telling us what they believe makes us an effective compliance program. They tell us effective compliance programs are made up of the following 7 elements: standards of conduct, policies and procedures, compliance committee and a compliance officer, education, monitoring and auditing, reporting and investigation, enforcement and discipline, response and prevention. We will briefly review what each of these looks like within our company. The first element of an effective compliance program are standards of conduct and policies and procedures. We have many written documents related to employee conduct and compliance, including the Graham Holdings Company Code of Business Conduct, our Employee Handbook, privacy and security policies and procedures, and clinical policies and procedures. All policies and procedures are accessible on our Celtic Information Portal page. All employees must read and attest to the Code of Business Conduct upon hire and yearly thereafter. The Employee Handbook further details the conduct expected of all of us. Please note that, as discussed in the Employee Handbook, adherence to the compliance program is a factor in evaluating the performance of all employees. Violations of policies and other requirements, not attending or completing trainings in a timely fashion, and not reporting compliance violations can and will result in disciplinary action, up to and including termination. The second element of compliance is compliance officer and committee. Our compliance officer is Emmy Gilbert. Emmy oversees the compliance activities of the organization and leads the compliance subcommittee, which is our compliance work group that meets at least quarterly to review compliance activities, chart audits, regulatory updates, and any other compliance-related matters. The compliance subcommittee consists of Emmy Gilbert, Kurt Baumgartel, our COO, Chris Koski, our CHRO, Greg Tiemann, the VP of IT and the HIPAA Security Officer, Barb Houston, the Director of Home Health Compliance and PI, and the HIPAA Privacy Officer, and lastly, Deb Sorrow, Director of Hospice Compliance and PI. Annually, all of our department heads meet as a full committee to review areas of focus, regulatory changes, and to identify areas for improvement in the coming year. The Compliance Subcommittee also updates company leaders quarterly on important compliance activities and developments. Celtic's leadership team has fully endorsed Emmy as Compliance Officer, Celtic's corporate compliance program, and its activities. The third element of an effective compliance program is education and training. At Celtic, we provide training to employees in many ways and assign different items to different employees based on job function. We do this through e-learns like this one, in-services, live presentations, and conference calls. This is an important part of our compliance program. I promise we are not just trying to waste your time. There is important, sometimes mandatory information in them, so we expect all employees to attend and complete trainings in a timely fashion. Monitoring and auditing is the next element of an effective compliance program. Celtic has a number of audits that occur regularly, including quarterly chart audits, monthly billing audits, and many other audits that are focused on specific regions or areas of focus as needed. On top of that, we are regularly audited by Graham Holdings Company and third parties in an effort to continually improve our processes and procedures, and to stay in compliance with the constant changes in our industry. Reporting and investigation are the fifth element of an effective compliance program. It is the responsibility of all employees and contractors to report violations or suspected violations immediately. Not reporting a compliance issue can result in disciplinary action. The compliance officer assembles a team to conduct a full investigation of any reported violation. These investigations are kept as confidential as possible. Only staff members who absolutely need to know about the information are involved. Exceptions to this occur when the investigation indicates someone is a danger to him or himself or others. If anyone threatens to harm another person, if there are allegations of abuse or neglect, or other instances where mandatory reporting is required. The final two elements of an effective compliance program are enforcement and discipline, and response and prevention. During an investigation, the team creates action items to address the compliance issues found. These are different each time, but often include education and training and changes to policies and procedures, not only to correct the issue, but also to prevent the same problem from happening again. We also issue disciplinary action if there have been violations of regulations or company policies. We do not tolerate compliance violations. Please note that retaliation against anyone for reporting a compliance concern is strictly prohibited. We want everyone to feel comfortable raising concerns. If you feel you are being retaliated against, please notify the HR department. There are several ways to report a compliance concern or to ask a question. The first step is to contact your supervisor. If you're not getting a response, or if for any reason you're uncomfortable with this, you can contact the compliance officer, Emmy Gilbert, directly. Her contact information, phone number is 724-720-1232, or you can email her at gilberte@celtichealthcare.com. Her contact information can also be accessed through the Global Address Book in Outlook. You can also send an email to compliance@celtichealthcare.com or call the helpline, which allows for anonymous reporting. The helpline is 800-273-8452. Please use the compliance reporting form when reporting a compliance concern via email. That form can be found on the information portal. The compliance reporting form is available on the homepage of CIP. From the I Need To section listed in the upper right corner of the homepage, select Report Compliance Fraud Issue. This will open the reporting form as a Word document. Please complete this and send to Emmy or compliance@celtichealthcare.com. Be sure to include names and numbers for anyone who the compliance team might need to talk to. If, for any reason, you wish to remain anonymous, you can call the helpline at 800-273-8452. The helpline is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We have a third-party company handle the helpline to ensure that your identity is protected if that is your wish. To make a complaint or ask a question, call the helpline and a communication specialist will document your concern. Please be prepared to give this person as much detail as possible. Specifics are important in being able to conduct a thorough investigation. Dates, times, locations, names of employees or patients involved. The more we know, the better we can construct our investigation. At the end of the call, you will be given an identification number and follow-up date. A report will be sent to Emmy. Remember, the report will not include your identity if you wish to remain anonymous. The compliance team will conduct an investigation and prepare a report for the helpline company, which will be read to you when you call back on the follow-up date. So when should you report? If you suspect any of the situation listed on this slide, such as bribes and kickbacks, theft and fraud, gifts and entertainment, Medicare and Medicaid fraud and abuse, conflicts of interest, political activities, antitrust laws, unlawful agreements with competitors, insider trading, confidentiality, privacy of employee and patient records, alteration or destruction of company records or financial documents, health, safety, and environmental issues, potential criminal violations, or other violations of company policy. To make it more simple, report any time you think things don't feel right. Also remember that if you have a question, you are encouraged to talk to your supervisor and/or the compliance officer. So what does this all mean for you? Just remember to always conduct yourself in an ethical manner. If you get lost in the details about what this means, and let's be honest, if you do, that's completely understandable, ask someone. And if you discover cause for concern, tell someone. We would rather investigate and find no issue than miss things or have them swept under the rug. As a healthcare company, we have some unique, high-risk areas where we need to pay extra attention. This includes fraud, waste, and abuse. Fraud is taking money from federal programs. Waste is the overutilization of services. This results in more money spent by federal programs. Abuse includes actions to get improper payments, providing medically unnecessary services, and getting paid for services that don't meet standards of care. Fraud, waste, and abuse don't only include the really obvious things like stealing money or billing for services not provided. Examples include billing for services not rendered, upcoding, not respecting patient freedom of choice, giving or receiving kickbacks to or from referral sources, false and insufficient documentation, admitting ineligible patients, forging beneficiary signatures, providing free services to assisted living facilities, hospitals, and other providers. What are some departments or areas that are considered high risk by the government? Everything in healthcare. Just kidding, kind of. Within our industry, the highest risk areas include billing, marketing, quality assurance, human resources, and of course provision of clinical care. These are areas of focus by the OIG, CMS, and fiscal intermediaries, so we must be particularly careful. One other important note. Hospice employees caring for a patient in a nursing home must report any reasonable suspicion of a crime to the state survey agency and at least one local law enforcement agency. Reach out to your supervisor if you suspect a crime. He or she will help you with what to do. Now we are going to walk through a few scenarios of things that might actually happen to you during your workday. Maybe some of them already have. Please listen to the scenario, listen to the choices, and pick what you think is the best answer. Then we will review the correct answer and explain why. Scenario number 1. A patient is cleaning out her home and plans to give extra dishes, kitchen appliances, collectibles, and other household items to members of her family. None of the items is worth much money, but have sentimental value. She goes on to say she has loved your visits and that you have become like her family to her, and tells you to take anything you want. So for this situation, what should you say to the patient? Pick the best answer. A. Perfect, my blender just broke, I really needed a new one. B. Only if you insist. C. Are you crazy? Absolutely not. Are you trying to get me in trouble with the compliance officer? Or D. Thank you, that is so kind, but I am not able to accept a gift from a patient. If you picked answer D, you are correct. Providers should not accept gifts from patients, even if they seem small or insignificant. Sometimes patients forget that they have given the gift, or family members are looking for the items and do not find them, and accuse the provider of stealing. This has happened multiple times. Hopefully it goes without saying that gifts of money are not to be accepted under any circumstance. Protect yourself and do not accept gifts. Let's take a look at another scenario. Scenario number 2. You are visiting a patient in an assisted living facility. On the way to the patient's room, the director of nursing stops to chat. She is frustrated because she is short-staffed and doesn't know how she's going to meet all the residents' needs. She asks if you could stop into a couple patients' rooms to administer medications, or change the linens and put them in the wash, or deliver the patient's lunch. And remember, these are not our patients. In this scenario, what should you say to the director of nursing? Pick the best answer. A. Sure, I am a team player, so whatever I can do to help out. B. I'm very sorry, but I can't do that. It's against company policy. Or C. I guess I'll help as long as it's just this once. So what do you think? For scenario number 2, if you picked answer B, you are correct. We cannot provide free goods or services to other healthcare providers. This includes doing things for other patients in assisted living facilities and other facility settings, or doing discharge planning. I know that sometimes Director of Nurses ask for these things. Please know that by saying no, you're not being disrespectful or rude, but you are doing the right thing for the company and for yourself. The provision of free services to referral sources is considered a kickback in the eyes of the government. If the Director of Nursing pressures you, please reach out to your supervisor. Scenario number 3. A sales rep for one of our vendors asks you to promote their products to our patients. As a thank you, the sales rep offers to take you and a group of your friends to Ruth's Chris for an all expenses paid for steak dinner. So how would you respond to the sales rep? Pick the best answer. A. That's my favorite restaurant. Sign me up. B. I'm a vegetarian, so that doesn't sound very appealing, unless they serve portobello steaks. C. I will make sure all of our patients use your product, but I can't accept the dinner. That would be a kickback. Or D. I'm sorry, we think very highly of your product, but I cannot accept your offer. For this scenario, if you picked answer D, you are correct. Under the fraud and abuse laws, not only can we not offer kickbacks, we cannot accept kickbacks. While items of nominal value are okay, things like pens or notepads, dinners and other gifts are unacceptable. Answer C was a trick. While it recognized that we cannot accept kickbacks, we also cannot mandate the patients to choose specific products. We must always respect patients' freedom of choice of provider. Let's take a look at one last scenario. Scenario number 4. You're talking with your manager and know we are looking for a new HME company. Your best friend owns an HME company and you know they do a great work. You recommend it to your manager without saying anything about your friendship. Was this okay? No, this actually wasn't okay. While there is nothing wrong with being best friends with the owner of a potential vendor or even a competitor, employees must disclose any actual, apparent, or potential conflicts to their managers. Managers should determine whether this is an actual or an apparent conflict. Managers, if you're not sure, call Emmy. If there is an actual or apparent conflict, we might need to take actions to eliminate the conflict. In this situation, we would make sure you weren't handling contract negotiations, billing, or anything else associated with your friend's HME company. Please also keep in mind that every employee must keep all company information confidential. So if you do have friends or family who work for vendors or competitors, don't talk about work. And really, isn't that more fun anyway? I promise we're almost done. Remember, if you have a concern or a question, don't hesitate to ask someone or tell someone. Tell your supervisor, tell Emmy Gilbert, the compliance officer, call the helpline and report anonymously. Remember that helpline number is 800-273-8452. We're all here to help, and we want to avoid this. Compliance Cat is ashamed for you. Compliance is the responsibility of each and every one of us. Do please do your part. We don't want to upset Emmy. We need to comply with all of our compliance rules. I hope this gives you a better idea of what compliance means in our company, what we expect of each of our employees, and what to do if you have a question or concern. Thank you for listening to this presentation. Now, please complete the post test to complete the assignment.